Hey, it's been a while since I've recorded a Cultural Catholic episode or video on my phone, but because of other reasons, I have to record it quickly ish on the phone. So today I will be talking first about, uh, granted, it's connected to American policy, but still it's a very much a foreign, uh, international style thing to talk about. That would be the move of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And then the other is the Russian doping decision. So, first, earlier this week, Donald Trump, earlier this week, yes, Donald Trump decided to move the Israeli embassy from Tel Aviv, which is the original capital of Israel, to Jerusalem, which is legally the capital of Israel. Now, many people would think, oh, well, that's where the seat of government is, that's where the parliament is, the Knesset, as it's called in Israel, that's where the ceremonial president resides, that's where the prime minister is. That makes sense. However, this goes against long-standing U.S. policy, and the reason behind that is Jerusalem is split between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Now, what that means uh, is West Jerusalem is controlled directly by the Israelis, whereas East Jerusalem, or wait, no, yeah, East Jerusalem is controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Ostensibly, however, there is a lot of IDF checkpoints and patrols that go on in that part of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is considered a possibility, considered to be possibly split if there when and if there is a peace deal that creates a two-state solution that goes with this two-state solution, which basically goes with the 1967 borders. And during that time, Jerusalem was actually not in Israel at the time, if I remember correctly. No, it was. It just hadn't been made the capital. Now, Tel Aviv originally had been the capital because Jerusalem was not part of what was Israel in 1948. Um, Now, a significant amount of embassies are still in Tel Aviv, and other significant portions of Israeli government offices are, mostly intelligence and military headquarters are there, although the main headquarters of many aspects of the Israeli government are in Jerusalem. Um, Now, a lot of European and Arab leaders are not happy about this, both religious and secular, mostly secular in Europe, and religious leaders in the Arab world are not happy, as well as secular leaders in the Arab world. Um, this is important because Jerusalem isn't just like an Israeli and Christian holy place. Yes, it's where Jesus is said to have been crucified. The hill is actually a church on the Palestinian side of Jerusalem. There's also the Wailing Wall. There's also a couple of two important mosques, I think, if I remember correctly. One is the Dome of the Rock, which is where Muhammad went during his journey from Earth to the heavens to meet with Allah. So again, it is a very important religious site for all three Abrahamic religions. Additionally, it's still a political hot spot because, again, there is a significant Palestinian and a significant Israeli populations, and it's a place where a lot of protests do occur during tensions. Actually, over the summer, the Al Aqsa Mosque was actually, that's the other important mosque in Jerusalem, was additionally put under additional security that was met with a lot of resentment by the Palestinians. Um, Now, again, I do understand that a significant amount of Israeli, the important parts of the Israeli government are headquartered in Jerusalem, and it makes sense to have the embassy in Jerusalem. However, it is highly politically toxic to put the embassy there, and American officials were warned to stay home amid the tensions. Again, I understand that the tension's there, but resorting to violence, that's a little extreme, I think, personally. Um, yeah. Next, the Russian doping scandal. The IOC, for the first time in its history, has banned an entire country from competing in the Olympics, and if any Olympians from said country were to compete, they would be competing under the neutral Olympic flag. Now, over the last few years, there's been an investigation by the IOC into the Russians and their doping. In the I think it was the 2016 Olympics in Rio, there were allegations that the Russian government did a massive doping program to make sure that their athletes were as ready as possible to take as much gold as possible, as many gold medals as possible. And they ended up with, if I remember correctly, over 30 medals at the last Olympics. It was either that or Sochi. I can't remember which. Actually, John Oliver did a piece during his piece on doping. Did bring up the IOC, the investigation into the Russian Olympic Committee governing body, and how there's an investigation going on, and how it seems highly likely that there was government-sanctioned doping. Now with Vladimir Putin, I understand it. He wants to be the leader of a country that's viewed highly in the international community, that ultimately is probably one of the best countries athletically, politically, militarily, and economically. He can only get some of those at this point in time because economically they're not doing so hot. Anyways, so now any and all Russian athletes are going to be extensively tested. Any that are able to pass those tests, or those that were not part of the doping scandal, if they pass doping tests, they will be allowed to compete. But again, if they were to win any medals, the Russian national anthem, the Russian flag would not fly if they get a silver or a bronze. And if they get a gold, the Russian national anthem, which is probably one of the most intense national anthems I've ever heard, will not be played. No one knows what's going to be played. But there will be no Russian flags. No Russian government officials will be allowed to be at the upcoming Olympics. So this is a historic moment. And as someone who has a degree in history, this is actually really interesting to be alive during. So yeah, all links will be in the description box below. This is Josh Rosella with Culture Catholic, signing off on this International Wednesday.